On this episode of Project PS2, we visit a charity shop and pick up 2 games for an absolute steal, and of course we go back to our old faithful CEX local store and pick up some brand new titles that they had in there that were on the Created Collection list. What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Command and Console. My name is Jason. Today we are doing another little hunt out there to cross off some games off of our PlayStation Created Collection list. And yeah, we went into town, went to a charity shop, the only one there that I actually kind of like going into mostly. Got no footage of that, so bear with me. They have 2 for £1 on DVDs, and video games are included in that. So video games are 2 for £1, which is amazing, so 50p. So before we go to the footage of CEX, I'm going to show you what I picked up in that charity shop. The first game there, it's not on the list, but I thought, you know, I'm not going to leave it there for 50p. Tom Clancy's Splinter Cell. Really like this game. It's a really good stealth game. I prefer the sequels, Pandora's Tomorrow and Chaos Theory. I think they're way better. But the first game is obviously where it began, and it's just a classic stealth game. You know, Sam Fisher is become an icon for stealth games now. The disc is in relatively good condition, but 50p, it's going to play, it's fine. Yeah, Splinter Cell, had to grab it, 2 for £1. You can't go wrong with that, Splinter Cell. And next up is a game that I actually saved myself about £2 on this one, because in CEX they sell this for £2.50. It's a game I remember quite enjoying for just that mindless hack and slash style of it. 50p again, 2 for £1. That is Spartan Total Warrior. If I'm going to see games that are not necessarily on the list, but they're games I fancy playing and they're dirt cheap like this, I'm going to pick them up. And of course, when you go to a charity shop and it's 2 for £1, you're not going to leave games like this sitting there. Yeah, I had to grab this myself. It's great, complete in boxes again. This one is in much better condition than Splinter Cell. So yeah, Spartan Total Warrior is a total steal at 50p. And yeah, I remember this being violent, brutal, and just a really fun kind of just like mindless hack and slash, where you just like cut people in half and just absolutely just destroy people. Yeah, as a Spartan, you know, if anything, this is probably the best 300 game we've gotten. I think it probably came out before the film, 2005. So I think on point with the film, around the same time period anyway. Spartan Total Warrior. So like I said, we go back to our old faithful CEX and have a look to see if they've got anything new this week that we can cross off the Created Collection list. So we are at CEX, and the first title for that is 50 Cent Bulletproof. I've heard both of those 50 Cent video games are pretty decent. Black is one of the greatest shooters on PS2, and it's on the list, so that's one thing we might pick up. The Bouncer I've heard mixed things about. I've heard it's like an interesting launch title for the PS2, but apparently it's dreadful by today's standards. Dragon Ball Z Tenkaichi Budokai 2 is a game I'm interested in. We have a racing game called Ford Racing 3. I used to be quite into these Ford Racing series back in the day, so that's a series I could maybe think about adding to the collection. Genji, now this, I remember that it's been a game that kind of resembles Onimusha, but it's made by Sony, so that could be an interesting title to pick up. In Mukken Show Demon Sword, I had that on the Dreamcast back in the day, so that's a title I might have to add to the list. I remember really enjoying that one. That was pretty decent. This was recommended by a subscriber to the channel, Outrun Coast to Coast on the PS2. Apparently it's a really great arcade racer. Predator Concrete Jungle is meant to be really good as well. Resident Evil Code Veronica X. I'm kind of decided that I would like to get all the Resident Evil games that came out on PlayStation, both PS1 and PS2, so that might be something we do down the line. Shadow of Memories was a really interesting Konami game back in the day that was more about kind of avoid your own death and try to figure out why you died and trying to change the time and stuff like that. Really interesting. Here's an interesting one, Terminator The Redemption. The second Terminator game to come out around Terminator 3 came out. It was one of those kind of tie-in games. Wipeout Fusion, a game I should maybe pick up because it's kind of like, you know, an iconic franchise on PS2. Worms 3D, I've never got into the Worms. When they went to 3D, I thought they were a bit jank. I've always preferred the 2D Worms games. So as you can see in the footage, they had some new titles in there I was so tempted to pick up. You know, Resident Evil 4 I wanted to get that. I've actually decided that I kind of want all the Resident Evils on PS2 now because I love Resident Evil so much. But yeah, Resident Evil 4 there. They had some really cool titles that I just really wanted to pick up, but some of them were really, really pricey. Dragon Ball Z Ultimate Tenkaichi 2, I want to get that as well. There was just loads. I could have, you know, you've seen the footage. I've probably spoke about what I pulled out off the shelves there. But yeah, let's get into what I picked up from my local CEX. So yeah, starting off with the games that are not on my created collection list, but I'm probably going to add some to it, which are the Resident Evil titles. The title I picked up for the Resident Evil would be Resident Evil Code Veronica X for PS2. I'm a bit bummed this is the Platinum Edition, but you know, I'm not gonna split hairs with the, you know, Black Label or Platinum. It doesn't matter to me that much. If it's there and it's a good price, I'm going to pick it up. Complete with manual. The great thing about my local CEX, if they don't have the manual with them, I always just go up and ask and say, do you have the manual? Because more often than not, they keep them behind the counter with the discs. And thankfully, all these titles are complete with manual, which I'm really happy about. As Code Veronica, one of the better Resident Evil sequels. I'd go as far as saying I think it's probably better than 4 in my opinion. Like I prefer old school, you know, tank control Resident Evil. So Code Veronica is probably for me one of the best in there. I think probably go as far as better than the original PS1 game. But I do feel like the GameCube remake kind of is better than this, if you get what I mean. But yeah, Resident Evil Code Veronica. I remember playing this for the first time on the Sega Dreamcast, because I used to have a Sega Dreamcast back in the day. I didn't get a PS2, I got a Dreamcast, which is weird. Love to collect for the Dreamcast again, but it's so expensive. Finding a unit that actually works is very difficult now. And I think the price of the games are just, they're way out of my budget range that I just cannot justify paying those kind of prices for Dreamcast. But I remember playing this on Dreamcast and it was a fucking blast. I'm looking forward to revisiting this. Capcom guys, mate, you've remade Resident Evil 4, which I felt was kind of, didn't really need a remake personally. This needs to be next on your remake agenda. There's been reports that you're planning to remake more stuff. Resident Evil Code Veronica needs to be remade next in the Resident Evil franchise. You need to remake Dino Crisis, and you need to remake Onimusha, please. All those three, please. Thanks. Next up is 2 games that will go with my other game that I've got. So I've got Terminator 3 Rise of the Machine. It's a bit of a bad game, but it came with a bundle of games. I've got somewhat nostalgia for it. I've also got nostalgia for this game. This is a better game than Rise of the Machines, and that is Terminator 3 The Redemption. This game was pretty cool. Back in the day, this game blew me away from its graphics. I remember it being really cool. You know, Arnold Schwarzenegger, it's always like this and everything. And his body deteriorates and you see the endoskeleton underneath. It's really cool. Like, this game was actually pretty decent for a licensed title back in the day. Yeah, but it was £1.50. I thought, you know what? I've got Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines on PS2. Why not get the other game, which is the better game? So yeah, that's Terminator 3 The Redemption. To carry on the Terminator theme, there's a great channel out there called Dan's the Games Man. I will put a link in the description and show you his channel. He commented on the Terminator 3 Rise of the Machines game and said, have you played this other game that came out on PS2? And I said, I think I have, but I don't remember it being very good. He was like, oh, it's probably worth a second shot. You know, he thought it was pretty good back in the day. And that game is called Terminator Dawn of Fate. Yeah, I don't remember this game being very, very well received. I don't really remember liking it myself. It's kind of like, I found it, well, from what I remember from this game, it was kind of like a weird, kind of a static camera angles a la Resident Evil, but it was Terminator, which sounds cool. Like, you know, tank controls, you know, static backgrounds, kind of Resident Evil-y, but Terminator universe sounds fun. But it wasn't tank controls, if from what I remember. It was more kind of, you know, analog stick kind of free movement. But it felt weird in that kind of static camera angle kind of environment. I don't remember it being very good, but I thought, you know what, let's have a little Terminator collection for PS2. So that's Terminator Dawn of Fate. Again, this is complete in box. I adore this art, guys. It looks so cool. I wish the cover art was just this. Just the endoskeleton skull in darkness. Because this one, it's a bit too much going on. If it was just like the logo and then just say like you center that. Like, yeah, like Like imagine, oh God, I'm getting my point across. Imagine it like this. It look awesome with the logo across the top. Yeah, I don't know. I'm just going over the top now, but I like that manual art. Anyway, I digress. But yeah, the disc art and the manual art are fucking cool. Hopefully this game is better than I remember. Terminator, Golden Fate. Brings us to my final game that I picked up in CEX. It might be the best first-person shooter nobody talks about on PS2. I remember this game coming out really late in the PS2's life cycle, like 2005 maybe, really late. And I was blown away by how good it looked for PlayStation 2. It's an EA game. It's got a spiritual sequel on PS3 called Body Count. I'm talking about the game Black. This is literally a Michael Bay action movie brought to the video game space, and it's absolutely glorious. You just blow shit up in this game. Just, you know, it literally is like, I can imagine my American friends who are into their guns adore this game, because this is gun porn. It literally is. Like, the reload animations are just super stylish and awesome. And yeah, if you're standing idle, your character always is checking ammo or just fiddling with his weapon. It is a gun fan's dream. So I can imagine my American friends who are into their guns really got a kick out of this game for its, for its depiction of weapons, because it's all over it. You know, the cover is a weapon. Like I said, the character just plays around with it. The reload animations are satisfying, and the weapons feel awesome in this game. They feel powerful. You feel like an absolute monster. It's so much fun. Black is such an underrated shooter that I think everyone needs to check out. If you've never heard of this game, you've never played it, but you want a just balls to the wall action game on PS2 that looks great as well, Black is probably the best game I've picked up in this lot today, pretty much. So that is the final game we picked up in CX. That's Black. I also did a detour last week. I went to my local comic book shop, and they had one title in there that I really wanted to pick up. It was complete. It was in pretty average condition, but it was like half the price of what CX was charging for it. And I was like, you know what, the disc isn't that great. Would you give me a discount? And I asked him, would you? It was, bear in mind, it was £3. I was like, would you take £2 for it? Would you take £2 for it? And he said, yes, sure, because I probably can get the disc cleaned and it probably will work fine. Its sequel is on the list, but that's a very expensive game at this point. This will do for now because it still is a great game. I'm talking about Def Jam Vendetta. This is such a fun game that is all about kind of like Aki engine wrestling, but you're just a bunch of rap and hip hop artists. It's so much fun. Like the actual engine itself, the actual gameplay is just so snappy, so arcadey and so fun. I miss games like this. I miss wrestling games like this. This is why people flock to the PS2 era of wrestling games, because they were that good. Yeah, this one is so good. I can't get over how good it is, guys. It is fantastic. But yeah, that's the final game in our pickups today. That is Def Jam Vendetta. So yeah, I think this has been a pretty successful Project PS2 haul for today. Let me know your opinions on any or all of these games in the comments down below. And of course, let's continue to build a games collection.